I'm Emma Jane, and today is going to be focusing on well-being and linking to performance. So if you want to write anything down, feel free to do so. If you want to shout out at any time, shout out. Do what's right for you. But firstly, I just want to ask you, if you could describe in one word what well-being meant, what would that one word be? And you could shout it out. You can write it down. You can just have a think about it. It could just be something that you feel is important to you.
Sounds right. Don't mind kicking off. So kindness.
Kindness, that's your one word. Thank you. Anyone else want to share their one word?
Happiness.
No? Happiness, kindness, nice.
Calm.
Pardon?
Calm.
Calm. I'm going to write these down. Kindness.
Can I have a double barrel, please, Emma Jane?
You can, as it's Tuesday.
It's very difficult, isn't it? But I was going to say, like, inner peace, a bit like Vicky's saying calm.
Inner peace.
Comfortable.
Comfortable. Does that mean you've now got two? Comfortable. Okay, so kindness, happy, calm, inner peace, comfortable. Perfect. Okay, so well-being is going to mean so many different things to us. It could mean kindness, happy, calm, inner peace, comfortable. It could mean fitness. It could mean health. It could mean diet. It could mean exercise. It could be sleep. It could be meditation. It could be relaxing. It could be talking. How would you choose that word? Well, you know, for me, well-being is a really big word in itself. Just those two little words, well and being, could mean so much. And I want you to write the word that you shared with me down and take that away with you from today, because we now need to break down one single descriptive word. For me, well-being umbrella, I can encompass the well-being umbrella with one word, and that for me is balance. So I really look at my well-being with one word, and that one word is balance. Let me tell you a story. My parents separated when I was 3 years old. I lived with my mother, my stepfather, my two brothers, and from time to time my step-siblings would visit, and we had a cat called Honey. Every other weekend I would spend the weekend with my biological father. It was my normal, I was happy, and I knew no different. I remember just feeling just good all the time. I felt happy. I was at junior school. I had a nice group of friends. I was very innocent. We all were when we were children. But the days seemed long, happy, and enjoyable. In fact, some of my earliest memories were of the weekends with my biological father. I had a great life. I'd go and see him at the weekends. I idolized the man. He was my prince. He was my hero. He was someone I couldn't wait to see every other weekend. He was very handsome, had a beautiful, beautiful smile, and he would make me laugh. I loved him deeply. I remember he used to pick me up. He used to take me to our local sweet shop to buy a quarter pound of wine gums from Percy Lovejoy's in Marlow. We would go swimming to Handy Cross in High Wycombe. We would go horse riding in Bray, or just out walking. And then we would go home and enjoy the generation game with Bruce Saw Forsyth. And we'd always laugh when it got to the cuddly toy on the conveyor belt. It was just a happy time. It was full of love. It was full of warmth. And it was full of lots of cuddles. But that was about to change. When I was 9 years old, I was sexually assaulted by someone who had befriended my family on holiday. At that time, I didn't know any difference, and I just went along with it. When I was 11 years old, my biological father, out of the blue, told me he never wanted to see me again. And then when I was 13, a family acquaintance became my new friend. When I was a child going through my own personal difficulties, trying to find my own ways to cope with all the things I wasn't sure about, such as PTSD, addictions, eating disorders, paranoia, night terrors, shame, fear, anger, stress, low self-esteem, insecurity, the list goes on. I struggled. I really struggled. Being sexually abused and then rejected by my father and then degraded as a child over many years that followed stripped my emotional, mental and physical well-being. It shook me up. It wouldn't let me go until I had nothing left. At that point in my life, I didn't understand what the words rape, manipulation or paedophile actually meant to me. The fallout from the abuse from my father left a vast, expansive hole in my life. I'm 49 this year. I've not seen him since. Pain does a funny thing, and we all cope very differently with the pain that we are given. For me, it was about survival. And even at that young age, that tender age, that was what I was taught, to emotionally survive. But when you are emotionally depleted and have no maturity behind you, no conversation, trying to emotionally survive is not an easy solution. I felt so let down by so many people, so very alone. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. I didn't think anyone actually liked me as a person. I don't think I really had any friends. I was just so paranoid and dark and so scared and afraid of losing any more loved ones from my life. My lessons this far had taught me that people treated you badly and my well-being suffered. And I just assumed this was normal. I didn't know any different. I didn't know I was being groomed when the family acquaintance showed up in my life. But he had an olive branch full of kindness, full of care and warmth. It felt like a ray of sunshine. Yay, I had a friend, someone who listened, someone who talked, and someone who allowed me to share my personal details. He allowed me to open up. He allowed me to share my heartbreak over my father, all the other fears and worries around that. I found someone who liked me, someone who let me be me. He was so kind. He showered me with gifts. He gave me money. He made me feel safe. My life felt brighter. I started to feel cared for, wanted, needed, and he made me feel good. My new friend was there for me like no one else was, but there was a heavy price to pay. I went off the rails at senior school, at home and with myself. I was 13, deeply insecure, vulnerable, with low self-esteem, desperate to be loved and needed. I was more and more confused by rejection, abandonment and sexual abuse. I lost my way. I lost my memory. I just cried all the time. My well-being was devastated. It was broken. That once happy child who couldn't wait to see her father at the weekend and go to Percy Lovejoy's sweet shop was fading away. And in her place became a withdrawn, dark, nervous, sad girl. A girl who was hollow, a girl who lived on a knife's edge. I left senior school at 16 with nothing but bad memories, a lot of sadness. I had one PE GCSE under my belt, and I had a juvenile delinquent label slapped upon me from my psychiatrist at school. My headmistress told me she would not have me back for sixth form. To be honest, it didn't bother me at the time. And to be honest, I didn't care about anyone or anything, not even myself. The education system had failed me. Adults had failed me. People had failed me. I was in a very dark place as a child. I felt totally removed from society. And I guess being sexually groomed as a child does that. When you're being abandoned and rejected, it does that. It removes your self-esteem, your self-worth, faith, and it leaves you in a very fragile and empty shell. There were days that I wanted to crawl away and die from shame and heartbreak and trauma. When I was 19, I then had two light bulb moments. The first was when my stepfather, who I hated at this point, he went into hospital with heart failure. We thought we would lose him. And like I said, I hated everyone, especially him, and still missed my father. I was still drained from the abuse, ready to take my own life. And then I saw the only man who had loved me, who cared for me, and who had looked after me my whole life, lying in bed, hooked up to machines, wires, and goodness knows what else. And my heart stopped. This man was the only man who'd loved me, the only man who had cared for me, the only man who had supported me through my dark times, the only man who consistently tried to be my friend. He was now here and about to die. It hit me hard. My second light bulb moment when I was working in a bar, and one of the regulars came in and said, EJ, what do you want to do with your life? And I said, I want to be a dancer. And he almost spat his drink out laughing. I said, why are you laughing? He said, well, you're never going to be a dancer. I said, why? He said, because you are always drunk. You're always on drugs. You're always just wild and out of control. Oh my goodness. Right there, right then, it hit me right between my eyes. This is not my legacy. I didn't want to be known as the drunk, the violent girl hitting her stepfather, the girl who hated life. And suddenly I found a new spark. My talking therapy started when I was 23. I stopped drinking, I stopped smoking. I moved away from the life I was living, and I enjoyed a new social life with new boundaries. I found talking so therapeutic, emotionally enlightening, albeit still difficult at times. Without alcohol, nicotine, and all the other substances I was taking, I found I was sleeping much better. I was still erratic. I still had to sleep with the light on because of my night terrors, but I felt physically better. I listened more to my body. I flitted around with work and became very entrepreneurial. In 2000, I launched my first business, a performing arts school for children. At this point, I was 28 years old, and this ran parallel with my therapy, or what I now call my recovery years. I was feeling much better. I felt a little bit more confident. I started to feel so much more positive about life, giving back to children, enjoying my surroundings and the people in my life. I was really passionate about supporting young people. It felt good to me. A few years later, I then moved into fitness and launched my own fitness company. And then I progressed through with my therapy and my training. Throughout the years, I've enjoyed an A to Z of therapy, such as holistic psychotherapy, hypnotherapy, dynamic therapy, and so on. But it was during this time that I really understood the power of mental health, emotional health, and physical fitness. But I didn't understand the power of the three of them together. But I was definitely starting to feel clearer, healthier, lighter, brighter in myself, but still afraid to speak out about my story. And to be honest, at that point, I never thought I would speak out. I was too scared to. I was ashamed. I didn't think that would be a good thing for me to do. I just wanted to run my business. I just wanted to feel better about myself, which I did. It was all working for me. I was coming together and feeling much more positive. I was feeling much more stronger, and I felt well and fit. In 2013, That's TV asked if they could interview me about my business life. Oh, wow, me? They wanted me to share some tips on the telly. I felt so proud to have been asked. the girl who was told by her headmistress that she was going nowhere. That failure, who left school with just one PE GCSE under her belt, was now being asked to share her well-being expertise on TV. I was so excited and very nervous. But I really knew that I knew my stuff. I trained for many years in performing arts, in fitness, in nutrition, in weight management. And at this point, I knew I had to dig really deep. But I was capable. I can do this. I wasn't a failure. And I knew I had to push past my fear of feeling inadequate. I had been an underachiever academically throughout my life, and I felt huge peer pressure, huge. But over the years of talking, I became much more passionate about life, my life, and those in it. I found a new confidence, a new voice that became louder and became more successful. And when I say successful, I don't mean monetary. I knew I could do this. I knew I was able. After the interview on TV, I was bowled over by the response. And then they called me again and said, would you come and present the health show because someone's on maternity leave? We'd like you to just come and join us. We loved having you here. And I thought, I felt wanted. I stayed for 4 years and they created me my own show called The Wellbeing Show with That's TV. This now gave me a new purpose. Someone believed in me. But it was also here that I discovered I had imposter syndrome. I was interviewing real people over those 4 years. They had real stories. And yet here I was, a very successful businesswoman with a great team behind her, hiding behind my own story. And it just didn't sit well for me. I didn't feel authentic. As I became more confident, more aware of my body and more aligned with people, my emotions, my mental health, I learned new lessons. And as I grew, my business grew, I grew, life grew, and I felt more confident. I ate much better. And when I ate much better, I felt happier. When I felt much more happier, I felt balanced. And my world worked. It worked like clockwork. It seemed so simple. The penny started to drop. Over the next few years, I enjoyed further business success. I've discovered on my journey the power of the words forgiveness, listening, education, and writing. I found new ways to balance out my life, to feel stable emotionally, mentally, and physically. I dealt with imposter syndrome by crying my way through the writing of my debut book, Don't Hold Back. And I put myself in front of large audiences to share my personal story. I knew I needed to push through with this fear of feeling inadequate. I needed to be authentic. I wanted to give back. Suddenly, it all made sense for me. I had a purpose. And I always said if my story could give one other person some hope, then it would have all been worth it. At that time, I wasn't even sure that speaking out would be a good thing. I thought it would car crash my career, but instead, my world got bigger. Over the years, I've worked very hard to feel good about myself, and I share that with anybody who wants to listen. What I have learned, what I knew I needed to feel mentally stable, emotionally fit, and physically strong. I have been in the wellbeing industry now for nearly 30 years, and in 2020, I trademarked Living Your Fresh Life, and I aligned the word balance to my work. And I think the words that you've all used today, kindness, happy, calm, inner peace, comfortable, they make me want to cry because that is balance for me. Those are really powerful words that we can take with us. But if you could think of yourself as a 3-piece pie chart now, and one piece of you is a mental health, one piece of you is emotional well-being, and one piece of you is physical fitness. And I think of those pie charts we were given at school. If one piece of your pie isn't full up, then you won't perform efficiently. It's like cutting off a leg, losing an arm. You need to be full. We need to top this up. So if one pie isn't working, then you just won't perform efficiently. We just don't work. We need all 3 topped up. Over the last 40 years, my own education has given me tools to survive. My business has developed, and I found the power of my Living Your Fresh Life pie chart and balance to be success. So when I look at the pie chart and I consider 1/3 of me as an emotional health, what does that mean? Well, this could mean so many things to so many different people, but for me, what I want to share is that it is good to talk. We all need to talk. We all need to understand. We all need to learn. We all need to listen. We need to work out a way to digest our difficulties and also how to move forward positively, because you can if you want to. Talking is not easy, I know this, but we can learn so much about ourselves through talking, through writing, through listening. I make it my thing to listen to people, and that's been a biggest part of my success, and I don't mean monetary. You don't have to do this on a stage, in a magazine, national press, social media platforms, podcast, radio, or other, as I have. Maybe you could find just a friend to talk to, or someone in your family, maybe a therapist, maybe a colleague. And if you really don't want to speak to anyone, how about writing it down, sharing this, or just writing it down, maybe text, send it to me, I'll listen. I know how suffocating it is not to talk. And for me, that emotional health piece of my pie is about talking, because talking is liberating. I remember when I spoke out for the first time, I really thought I was the only one in the world who had gone through the difficulties that I had had as a child. But in time, I realized this was not the case. I'm one in a million of people who have suffered with PTSD, paranoia, eating disorders, addictions, night terrors, depression. And all of this been created from low self-esteem, insecurity, and vulnerability. Talking was a powerful tool in my box. In time, I didn't feel so alone. Of course, it was still very scary to talk. In fact, I was almost sick on a few occasions when I had to sort of speak publicly. But as I spoke to my therapist and moved forward and shared my bucket loads of tears, I knew it was just the beginning, and it was very liberating for me. So finding my way to emotional fitness isn't easy. I didn't think the pain would ever end. It seemed relentless, but it was definitely worth it. I felt so much more empowered by talking. Talking has allowed me to own my pain, own my difficulties, own my fears. And throughout the years, I've reflected on my childhood, and I've understood how powerful forgiveness has been to my journey. I have no grudges. I have no bitterness to anyone. And I know how exhausting that emotion can be mentally. So I now use positivity to fuel my difficult conversations, to fuel and navigate those constructive outcomes. I have no time for being held down and back by negativity. I will always release it with positivity. My emotional peace came from letting go, speaking out, forgiving, embracing life, embracing everything that I've been given. And by that, I mean embracing my own lessons and sharing these lessons to encourage others to find their success. It isn't always easy keeping negativity from our doors. I know this, but understanding how your positive approach helps you build better boundaries that supports your emotional health is an important part of your success. If you feel emotionally in control, you will undoubtedly perform with a clearer thought process, which will make your environment much more productive regardless. And I also want to touch on technology here when talking about emotional well-being. This has also become such a massive part of our society and is causing more and more mental health problems just in itself in adults. I mean, do you know how much time you're spending in front of screens? You don't have to tell me now. Maybe this is something you can start sort of writing down and sharing with each other. Can you limit the time on technology? Maybe a digital detox is good for you. Maybe it's part of your life and you need it, but understanding how it can be included in your life positively. Also moving forward, maybe going out in nature, maybe reading, writing, exploring, and of course, getting outdoors when you can to exercise. I know someone said this morning, walking was good. So, you know, wrap yourself up with all the fresh air and green trees, go and hug a tree, go and clear your mind with a digital free walk and use the emotional fitness to help you become accountable. Maybe this is something you guys could share in a group together. Maybe Vicky could do some accountability, emotional health accountability with you to share with your family and friends. But have a think about it. And then also think, are you talking enough? Are you listening enough? And are you learning? So let's just move on to the mental health piece of your pie now. We say mental health so often, but what do these words mean? Maybe this is something you could just write down now and we'll share it at the end. But what does mental health actually mean? Two powerful words. What do those two words mean? For me, I would say mental health is how you recognize your own ability and how you cope during any situation. Personally, I coped very badly many years ago because I didn't recognize my ability. I was too young and I certainly did not cope with any situation very well. It took many years for me to do that. I blamed everyone else for my own downfall. I trusted no one. I hated everyone because that was easier for me. But this was clearly a much harder way to live. Being mentally well was something I had to really spend time on and something I can now rave about because it is this part of my life that layered with emotional fitness was enlightening for me. It was something that made me feel good. You know, through my emotional therapy, I can now wholeheartedly understand the importance of supporting my mental well-being and what I needed to do to live positive through the challenges around me. I had to get help for PTSD, paranoia, the eating disorders, the night terrors, addictions and fear. And it was this that was a really big challenge. Not everyone likes this challenge, but if you can look at your challenges differently, maybe face them with a new set of eyes and ears, maybe you can work out how you can get through to be the best you know, that person you've always wanted to be. And therapists are an excellent part of this success. I, for one, still will dip in and out when I feel the need to. I feel it's great to have someone who can listen, show empathy, and also someone who can help me think differently about my challenges. I'm also a mentor myself, so I understand the power of this. So therapy is a good thing. None of us should be afraid of this. We live in the 21st century. We've had many challenges this century that we didn't have in the 20th century. We need to change up our thought process on mental health and the support systems. Productivity in your personal space, your professional space improves when you have a stable team around you helping you. So when I say stable team, it could be your emotional support, your mental support. And obviously all research can clarify this. But it's good to get help, inform people around you that you need to have some support. There's nothing wrong with that. Improved emotional fitness brings happier life, and good mental health brings stability. It's a win-win situation. And the third piece of my pie chart, well, we all know that being active is important. We all know it's good for strength, muscle development, brain activity, not to mention all the positives around cardio, strength, supporting serious diseases, and of course, burning body fat, helping us to metabolize and stay healthy. Without doubt, we should be making sure we are active. Expert guidelines suggest we exercise for 115 minutes per week, which doesn't sound so broad when you break that down into 5 lots of 30. And that can be walking, running, cycling, swimming, whatever it is that you feel, because exercise is good for you in so many ways. Maybe gardening, maybe cleaning your car or house. Just get that heart rate up a little bit. Maybe you could find an accountability partner here to engage in exercise with you, or speak to your fitness professional to factor in your strength, flexibility and core work, and you'll undoubtedly feel better. And what about eating? Are you eating a balanced and healthy diet? Have you spoken to someone who can help you understand what a balanced and healthy diet means to your life? As we know, eating is important. We are what we eat. Cliche, I know, but it's true. If you eat well, you're going to feel well. And what about when you eat? Are you bored, hungry, in a routine? Maybe it's medication that's making you eat. And of course, habits can be a difficulty in understanding how to balance our well-being. And routine is important, but so is changing up routines and habits. Have you ever heard of the Pavlov dog theory? There was a scientist called Ivan Pavlov, and he wanted to show how easy it was to create a habit. So every day he rang a bell and he called his dog over and he put down a delicious bowl of dog food, and did this every day for a number of days. Each day the dog got used to that bell and it run to his owner for his nice big bowl of delicious food. And it became clear that the bell and the time meant food. So one day Pavlov rang the bell without any dog food. The dog came running and there was no food, and the dog salivated because he'd created a habit. So what does eating mean? How can you look at your physical well-being, what you're eating, your diet, your exercise, and bringing all of that together? We like habits such as eating salt with everything. We like to have our breakfast, lunch and dinner at the same time. Do we taste our food before we add the salt? We like to have roast dinners on a Sunday, and then we're often just offered a second helping of roast dinner. Wasn't one enough? Then we're told to finish our plates to get our dessert. Oh my goodness, this should not be a punishment. We quite like a takeaway of fish and chips at a weekend. We need to clear some of these thought processes. It's great to have habits, but also it's great to change things up. As a society, we just eat quickly. That just seems to be what we do. We like wine with our meal. Why not change a few of your habits? Mix it up, change the time you eat. How about factoring in some fasting to help your body metabolize, boost your metabolism, cleanse your body, cleanse your mind? We make food choices for a number of reasons. We've got learned behaviors to eat some foods at certain times. Our upbringing can influence a lot of what we eat, as does our religion, income, work schedule, health, mood, celebration, endorsements, fad diets, food scares. The list goes on and on and on. And have you ever given any thought to when, why, and how you eat? What about rest? Are you sleeping enough? Are you taking enough time to listen to your body? Well, I heard last year that Roger Federer and many high-performing athletes sleep around 12 hours a day. I mean, if only. But surely we could learn from these significant achievers and continue to use sleep, as well as eating, exercise, to improve our physical performance. So just to summarize there, emotional health. Are you talking, listening, learning, and becoming accountable? Mental health. Do you recognize your own ability and how you cope during any situation? And your physical health. Are you exercising enough with a good diet? Are you sleeping like Federer? We need to address everything that we're doing to improve balance, to align our mental, emotional, and physical well-being. Maybe our environment will flourish better if we are empowered by ourselves. So how can well-being improve your performance? Simple. If we go back to the pie chart, if you are aligned with your mental, emotional, and physical health, then you are going to perform efficiently and successfully. And your words, kindness, happy, care, inner peace, and comfortable, all are very beautiful and part of your emotional and mental health. If you're not aligned and your 3 pieces in your pie aren't full up, then you're not going to function to the best of your ability, which will naturally affect your performance. The 3 really work together. I'm pleased to tell you that my stepfather is now 84 years old. He's my best friend. He's my biggest fan. I'm a CEO, I'm an author, I'm a speaker, and I'm now a child sex abuse activist. And I've recently accepted a role on a sex offender advisory board. It's been a long slog for me to arrive at this point, and to share my secrets to help close your gap and find your success sooner, to be the best you, because you can be better. I'm Emma Jane Taylor. Thank you very much for having me here today.
That's amazing. Thank you, Emma Jane. I think that was very honest and very enlightening, and I hope that everyone can relate in their own ways to what Emma Jane was talking about, and how when we're faced with adversity we can overcome it in our own ways. And I thought that the balance piece, where you're talking about getting those different pots aligned that you need to align, is so important. And I think that being positive when you're faced with dealing with cancer and going through the treatment is so important as well. I think that's really important. But I thought it was very interesting. I mean, has anyone got any questions that they would like to ask Emma-Jane?
Feel free, ask me anything. Nice to see you.
Her, so ask her.
No.
I'm going to actually, sorry, I'm actually was Googling actually in the background. I'm going to actually probably purchase a copy of your book.
Oh,
Yeah, so I yeah,
that's going to make me cry.
no, I just think stories, well, I think I was close to tears, probably some of the others where, our journeys are very different to what we're all going through or been through, but I just think, yeah, I'd like to have a read of your book. And one of the things that you were saying about I think you were sort of saying about getting out in nature and things like that. I actually, as part of my sort of cancer journey last year, did a mindfulness course, and I will put my hand up, it was not for me.
Right.
One of my friends actually said to me, it's way too woo-woo for you, Lou, and it was. But the one thing I learned from that was, I'm a big walker, so I'm out in nature all the time, but to actually not always take my phone with me, and just to be out and not necessarily hug a tree. I haven't quite done that yet, but to actually, yeah, just be more aware of the nature that I'm on, whereas opposed to just thinking, I'm just going out for walks, I need to walk, I need to exercise, but just taking, and that's one of the things that I took out of the mindfulness course, because that's my me time almost. And I'm tied to technology. I'm actually working in the background today because I work full time, and I think working from home has just made it 10 times worse. It's just,
yeah, and I think it's what works for you. And if you found that nature works and you don't need to hug a tree, you can just look at it, and maybe one day you might want to hug it, and then everyone will be like, what's she doing?
yeah, when there's people around me, it's there's no one around.
Louisa said though, I mean, I find walking is my stress buster, so the fact that I can't actually do it as fast as I normally do is really frustrating me in a minute, but we'll get there.
But the fact that you're out walking is inspirational, right?
Yeah, no, we're getting there. I'm aiming at 600 miles by the end of the year.
Wow, good for you. I think that's really important. And I think that's the other thing. We've just got to do what is right for us. So, if it is hugging a tree, if it is swimming, if it is walking or gardening, or, whatever it is, enjoy it. And if technology helps you, it helps you. But also, like Louise was just saying, I think looking around, right? Looking around.
Yeah, take it in.
Taking it in is a really big part of our connections between our emotional and mental and physical health. And it's then being able to share that on, so the word that my word of balance is something that is really important to me, because I know I need that. I'm going to share something with you in a minute, but it might be completely different to you. What does balance mean to you, and how can you use balance to improve your life in any way, shape or form? So I'm just going to show you. So this is what I created. Can you see that?
Yeah,
that was my living my fresh life happy pie.
Yeah.
So I have that up around me because I just like to be able to see it and just remind myself, what that means to me, and it allows me to be whole. And of course I'm human, and like you, go through good days, bad days, and indifferent days. And it's on those good days, bad days, and different days you have to look at everything with a different set of eyes, and that will carry you through. But I love your words at the beginning, and I'd like to know actually what you chose. What does mental health mean to you? Did anyone write anything down for that? Vicky?
I wrote down resilience and understanding.
Beautiful. Did anyone else write anything?
So I sort of wrote down looking after your mind like you would your body.
Great. Perfect.
Yeah.
And I wrote stability of thoughts through positive strengths.
Perfect. Lovely. All beautiful. And I think these are things that you can, as a collective group, share with Vicky, and just remind yourself. I mean, I have things around me all the time just to remind me, not that I need reminding, but it's good, because everyone goes off and you're all on very, very different journeys, and your journey is going to be very personal to you on your well-being, mental, emotional, and physical fitness. But don't forget all those things that you've just shared, written down, and take them with you on your onward journey. And it's great to have been here today, doing a little bit to make you hopefully think a little bit differently about that word balance, or well-being, mental health, and that it's okay. And you know what, my inbox is never far away. If you want to just drop me a note, I'm always happy, and Vicky knows me, I'm always happy to listen. I'm always happy to read anything. I tell you what I found recently, poetry, very helpful to me in my role as an activist with child sex abuse. And it helps other people understand. So maybe poetry could be something that you dip into, or writing.
I did actually wonder about that, about the writing element,
Yeah.
because I thought that might be a different way to express yourself. Does anyone keep a journal or anything like that?
I do.
Yeah, I was advised to do it when I started my cancer journey, which was the 3rd of January last year, and I'm still writing it every single day. And some days it's 2 lines, some days it's 2 pages, and it's not something I've never done before. But it's and now it's not even about my cancer journey, because touch wood, I'm through that. But it's now about just all the different things that are sort of I'm unraveling, and my notes from today are actually in my journal.
Oh,
So,
I'm touched. I feel.
And I've got God knows how many books. They're little ones and big ones that people bought me, and it's just And one day, a few people said about turning it into a book, but I don't know. That's a bit.
And do you know what, Louise? When I never thought I'd write a book. Never in a million years. I never thought I'd speak about it. Then the last thing I wanted to. I remember writing my book for the first time. My book is about giving back tips and advice through my own journey. And my friend, I don't know if you know Simon Kernick, he's a thriller writer, quite well known, very well known. And I said to him, I've written my intro. And it basically said, I'm Emma Jane Taylor, I've gone through a few difficulties, but I've learned to come through them with kindness. He said, EJ, you can't write that. People aren't going to buy your book. And I said, well, I just feel a bit awkward writing all the other stuff. He said, well, unless you're transparent or authentic, you're not going to be credible for people to respond to. So I said, okay, I'm Emma Jane Taylor. I survived a very difficult childhood with my father leaving and sexual abuse, and this is my book. He was like, no, that's not going to work. That's not going to cut any mustard. So in the end, I then had to pour it all out, and I cried all my way through. And actually, he was like, that's better. That's it. It's exactly what you need. But I understand that it's hard to write sometimes. But maybe Louise, one day you might go, actually, this is right for me. And if you want to chat about that, I'm always happy to chat. But it was then the process of what happened next and how that sort of moved forward. And I'm in the middle of my second book now. And this is about how to reduce child sex offences through my lessons and various others. And I did something last week that I never thought I'd ever do in a million years. And I had a meeting with a sex offender on parole in America.
Oh.
And so you can do anything you want if you're ready to do it, any of you, as a writer.
Very interesting. Very interesting. One of the things I did pick up from when you were talking about your book, Don't Hold Back, was that you had a purpose.
Yeah.
And I think that having that purpose when you're going through your cancer journey is also quite vital. You need to have that purpose to keep you positive and to aim for, go in the right direction. I think that's really important as well.
I found the problem I've had is that there's been lack of routine, and of course what was happening when I went into my cancer journey now isn't there, because it's gone, because obviously life was normal when I went into my cancer journey, and of course obviously for other people it's changed as well, but of course I've lost all the routine. So all the routine that was there is now not going to come back, which is very strange, and I'm finding that quite hard to deal with at the minute. But that's just
I can resonate with that, Kay. I worked all through my treatment last year, but so sort of 6 months was COVID, working, it was just I was on a roller coaster.
The 3rd of January. I started my treatment the 3rd of December before that. So
but it was like being on a roller coaster for 6 months, and then you get off the roller coaster, and then it's like, oh,
now what?
And then that's where things like this sort of help, and that's kind of I sort of probably picked up on doing more stuff like this. And I'm well, obviously Vicky knows I'm into the volunteering aspect now, but it is really hard, because as I say, your life just it's almost like your diary is full of, oh my god, I've got to go to this appointment and that blood test and then all of a sudden you haven't got to do any of that, and it's like it's almost like I don't want to ever say I'm scared, but it was I was gutted the last chemo session, because it was like leaving family behind. And it was, and doing it in COVID, they were the only people I used to see, pretty much.
I think the other thing is, of course, what happened, although it was good for me for after chemo, is, of course, my husband's been at home since, well, obviously the first lockdown. Then he went back for a couple of months in July when I finished radiotherapy in June. And then, of course, he's been at home ever since. So all of a sudden, yesterday, I was like plunged into, I'm on my own.
Oh, right. Okay.
Because up until that point, of course, my daughter was here. So, and she left home in last February this was, to go and set up a new life in London, and our college course all fell apart around, and then of course COVID, and she's been locked in ever since. So she moved out and basically hasn't been able to go out and explore where she's living.
I do think COVID has put another dimension onto everything at the moment anyway. I think we've had a huge amount to deal with in the last year, 18 months. And you know, if you're dealing with cancer on top of that as well, because you're going for treatment on your own, and you know, you've got to sit there on your own basically.
Yeah,
it does add another dimension. I would agree with that. I think it's been really hard.
it's only my last one where I was on my own, but obviously Louise must have been on her own all the time.
I had chemo, but I had more chemo buddies than I had chemo. I just didn't have enough chemo to have all this. And then I had two chemos with buddies, and then none at all. I'm just fortunate. I live 5 minutes from Bruntsbridge, so you know, so I was able to. But it was hard. You know, the lady wasn't allowed in, and couldn't make your tea, and it was just. But it was yeah.
You have any of you thought about scrapbooking as well?
No, I'm used to that. I get halfway.
The only reason I
don't do anything afterwards.
But I found that really helpful actually. I've just done that recently. I've got myself a scrapbook just with my work actually, with my activist role. And so when I find stuff, I put it in there, and it just helps me build a different picture. So you know, and I think what Vicky said is about your purpose. If you are going to write a poem, a book, do a scrapbook, what is the purpose of it? So you know, why would you want to write a book? Well, I wanted to write a book to give back what I'd learned to help other people through their difficulties. So you know, if you are going to write a book, what is that? Why would you want to write a book? Well, I would assume it's to share with others what you've learned to help them through their cancer journey and their difficulties, and remind people that they're not alone, which, you know, I'm sure everyone feels so isolated on that journey, but clearly not. Look at you guys are here this morning sharing so much with each other, so that's a really important part. So you know, using that purpose to fuel, or maybe it's like crocheting. I know I work with people who crochet and knit. There you go. And they do that. They do their writing through crocheting. They do their creativity through painting. There's always a way to release those worries, those dark thoughts and the anxiety. Get it out there. I mean, once you get it out there, it's not suffocating you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. No, I think we've had a really interesting session. I mean, I think it was probably unexpected because of your story being obviously not cancer related, but it is so relevant in the same way in terms of the emotional, the mental and the physical aspects of how we all need to approach our lives and what we're facing really. I think it's been really interesting. So I'd just like to say thank you, Emma-Jane. I think it's been really good this morning.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And like I say, my inbox is never far away, and I'm always happy to listen. And I've met Pat before. Nice to see you, Pat.
Yeah.
You're amazing, Emma-Jane. That's amazing.
Thank you. And as Pat knows and Vicky knows, I also work on a radio station, and my show is Wellbeing, and I'm often talking about these subjects. So if you do, Pat, Louise, if you feel you did want to speak up and out, maybe you could get in touch and I can put you on our database, because you know, we're always talking about these conversations as well. So, and that goes for anyone, right? If anyone wants to come and be a voice, there'll be people who want to hear it. And yeah, Pat, it's great to see you looking so well.
Yeah, no, ups and downs, Emma, but still keeping the focus.
And let me tell you of my friend Vanessa Carter. So if you get a chance and you're on Facebook, or you want me to introduce you to her, she was given a year to live just over 2 years ago, and today she's been signed off cancer free.
Yeah.
Hey.
Wow, that's amazing, isn't it?
It can be done.
And she did it, and I interviewed her on 5 shows. I did a 5-show thing with her, how she did it, and how she has been using diet, meditation, mindset, getting rid of people in her life that she didn't need, and keeping positivity around her. So if any of you want an introduction, get in touch with me. Vicky can share all my contact details with you. And yeah. And Vanessa Carter.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you, ladies. Thank you for having me today. Good luck on your journey. And I can't say enough about, you know, you're all inspirational people. And so thank you for all you do to help each other as well, because that's really important. And my door is always open.
Thank you.
Thank you.